The entire office fell silent as Richard Morrison slammed his hand on the conference table, his face red with rage. "You're fired, Martinez. Pack your desk and get out." I stared at him, my presentation still frozen on the screen behind me, the quarterly analysis I'd spent 3 weeks perfecting, the recommendations that could save the company millions. None of it mattered. "Richard, if you'd just let me explain." "Explain what? That you went over my head? That you embarrassed me in front of the executive team? That you think you're smarter than everyone else here?" "I was trying to help the company." "You were trying to make me look bad." He stood up, looming over me. "Let me tell you something, Martinez. You'll never amount to anything. You're a glorified number cruncher who got lucky with one good idea. Without this company, without me, you're nothing. Now get out before I have security escort you." I looked around the conference room. My colleagues avoided my eyes. The CFO studied his phone. Nobody said a word. I picked up my laptop, held Richard's gaze for one long moment, and smiled. "You're going to regret this," I said quietly. He laughed. "Is that a threat?" "No," I said. "It's a promise." I walked out of Morrison Analytics with my box of belongings and a fire in my chest that nothing could extinguish. Richard Morrison had no idea who he'd just fired, but he was about to find out. My name is Alex Martinez, and 6 years ago I was nobody, a kid from the south side of Chicago with a state school degree and more ambition than sense. I'd started at Morrison Analytics as a junior analyst right out of college. The pay was mediocre, the hours were brutal, and Richard Morrison was the kind of boss who took credit for your wins and blamed you for his losses. But I was hungry. I worked 16-hour days, I taught myself advanced modeling software on YouTube, I took every project nobody else wanted and turned them into opportunities to learn. Within 3 years, I was the senior analyst. Within 4, I was leading the data science team. By year 5, I developed a proprietary algorithm that increased client portfolio returns by an average of 23%. That algorithm should have made me. Instead, it made Richard Morrison rich. He took my work, presented it to clients as his own innovation, and collected 7-figure bonuses while I got a $5,000 raise and a "good job, champ" pat on the shoulder. I should have left then, but I believed in loyalty. I believed that hard work would eventually be recognized. I believed that if I just proved myself enough, Richard would finally see my value. I was wrong. The firing happened because I'd done something unforgivable. I'd been right when Richard was wrong. Morrison Analytics was hemorrhaging clients. Richard's traditional investment strategies were getting destroyed by newer, more agile competitors using AI and machine learning. Our client retention rate had dropped 34% in 18 months. I developed a solution, a complete overhaul of our analytics platform, integrating real-time data feeds and predictive modeling that would put us years ahead of the competition. I'd built a working prototype on my own time, tested it against historical data, and the results were extraordinary. I presented it to Richard first, privately. He dismissed it. "Too risky, too expensive, too complicated. Stick to what we know, Martinez." "But Richard, the data shows." "I don't care what your data shows. I've been in this business for 20 years. I know what works." So I did something desperate. I went to the CFO and asked for 10 minutes at the next executive meeting, just 10 minutes to show them what we could do. She agreed. Richard found out the morning of the presentation. He burst into my office at 7 a.m., face already red. "You went behind my back?" "I went through proper channels." "I'm your boss. I'm the proper channel. You made me look like an idiot." "I made you look like someone who doesn't listen to good ideas." Wrong thing to say. The presentation went well at first. The executives were engaged, asking questions, nodding along. Then Richard interrupted. "This is all theoretical. Martinez is playing with fantasy scenarios. In the real world, this would never work." "Actually," I said carefully, "I've tested it against 10 years of market data. The model predicted every major market movement with 89% accuracy." "That's impossible." "It's documented. I can show you." "You're making up numbers to save your pet project." The CFO frowned. "Richard, if the data's solid..." "It's not solid. Martinez is a decent analyst, but he's not a strategist. He doesn't understand the bigger picture." Richard turned to me, and I saw the decision in his eyes before he said it. "You're fired, Martinez. Pack your desk and get out." That's when I said he'd regret it. I meant every word. I spent the first week after getting fired doing 3 things: drinking too much coffee, sleeping too little, and planning my revenge. Not revenge, actually. That's too emotional. This was justice. I took inventory of everything I had: $47,000 in savings, my algorithm and models, developed on my own time, legally mine, 6 years of industry contacts who respected me more than they respected Richard, a burning desire to prove I was everything he said I wasn't, and I had one more thing. I knew Morrison Analytics financials inside and out. I knew they were in trouble, worse trouble than even the executives realized. I called every contact I had in the industry, former colleagues who'd left Morrison, clients I'd worked with directly, competitors who knew my work, and asked one question. If I started my own firm, would you be interested? 12 clients said yes immediately, 7 more said probably. That was enough. I incorporated Martinez Analytics LLC with $10,000 and launched a website I built in 48 hours. My pitch was simple: better analysis, better results, personal service, and cutting-edge technology. Within 2 months, I had 15 clients and $300,000 in revenue. Within 6 months, I had 40 clients and $2.3 million in revenue. Within a year, I had 70 clients, 12 employees, and $8.7 million in revenue. Every single one of those clients came from Morrison Analytics. I didn't have to destroy Richard Morrison. He destroyed himself. Without my algorithm, without my work, Morrison Analytics' performance cratered. Client returns dropped, complaints increased. More clients left, moving to competitors. Some moved to me. I didn't poach them exactly. I just let it be known that I was available, that the person who actually been doing the work at Morrison Analytics now had his own firm. The clients made their own decisions. Richard tried to fight back. He badmouthed me to anyone who'd listen, called me a thief, said I'd stolen proprietary information, threatened lawsuits he never filed because he knew they'd fail. The industry watched him unravel with a mixture of pity and schadenfreude. Everyone had known for years that Richard took credit for other people's work. Now that the person doing the work was gone, the emperor had no clothes. Morrison Analytics revenue dropped 40% in 18 months. Staff turnover hit 60%. Richard had to sell his vacation home, then his boat, then he started taking out loans to cover operating costs. I heard through the grapevine that he was looking for a buyer, that he was desperate, that the company his father had built was about to go under on his watch. That's when I made my move. I called Richard Morrison on a Tuesday morning, exactly 2 years after he fired me. "Hello?" "Richard, it's Alex Martinez." Silence. Then, "What do you want?" "I want to buy your company." He laughed, but it sounded hollow. "That's hilarious." "I'm serious. I've reviewed your financials. You're 3 months from insolvency. Your debt-to-equity ratio is underwater. You're losing clients monthly. You need a buyer, and I'm offering." "Go to hell, Martinez." $4.2 million, cash, enough to pay off your debts and walk away with maybe $500,000, more than you'll get from anyone else. "My company is worth 10 times that." "Your company was worth that 2 years ago, before you ran it into the ground. Now it's worth what someone's willing to pay, and I'm the only one offering." Another long silence. "I'm not selling to you." "Then who are you selling to, Richard? Who else is lining up to buy a failing firm with outdated technology and a terrible reputation? You have no leverage here. Take the offer or go bankrupt. Those are your options." "I need to think about it." "You have 48 hours. After that, the offer drops by $200,000. Every week you wait, it drops another $200,000, because every week you're worth less." I hung up. He called back in 36 hours. The day we signed the paperwork, Richard looked like he'd aged 10 years. His expensive suit hung a little loose. His confident swagger was gone. We met at his lawyer's office. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Jennifer Chen, had reviewed every document 3 times. Everything was clean. "You're really doing this," Richard said, staring at the papers. "I really am." "You know this is just spite, right? You're buying my company just to humiliate me." "No," I said. "I'm buying this company because it has good bones, a solid client base, even diminished, good infrastructure, a recognizable name. Under proper management, it could be profitable again." "Proper management," he repeated bitterly. "I'm also buying it because you were wrong. You said I'd never amount to anything, that I was nothing without you. I wanted to prove definitively that the opposite was true, that you were nothing without me." His hands shook as he signed the papers. "For what it's worth," I said, You were a terrible boss, but you taught me something valuable. What's that? How not to treat people, how not to lead, how not to let ego destroy something good. I stood up, the signed documents in hand. Thank you for that lesson. It made me a better leader than you ever were. I walked out, the owner of Morrison Analytics. The first thing I did was change the name. Martinez Analytics acquired Morrison Analytics in a deal that made industry headlines. Former employee buys company that fired him, ran in several trade publications. The story got traction because it was dramatic, yes, but also because it represented something bigger. Talent wins eventually. I kept 15 of Morrison's employees, the good ones who'd been trapped under Morrison's mismanagement. I let the rest go with generous severance packages. I integrated Morrison's client base with my own. I upgraded all their systems to my platform. I personally called every client to introduce myself and promise better service. Within 6 months, client satisfaction was up 67%. Within a year, we'd won back half the clients who left. Within 2 years, the combined firm was generating $45 million annually. I hired a CEO to run day-to-day operations because I learned something Richard never did. You don't have to do everything yourself. You hire people smarter than you and let them excel. I promoted Sarah Chen, one of Morrison's former junior analysts who Richard had ignored, to head of research. She's brilliant and develops better models than I ever could. I hired Marcus Williams, who'd been Richard's assistant and had endured years of abuse, as COO. He knew every operational detail of the company and ran things flawlessly. I built a company culture based on merit, respect, and innovation, everything Richard's company wasn't. We became one of the top analytics firms in the country. I ran into Richard Morrison 2 years after buying his company. I was having lunch at a downtown restaurant when I saw him at the bar, drinking alone at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. He looked worse, older, defeated. I should have ignored him, walked past, enjoyed my victory in private. Instead, I walked over. Richard? He looked up, took a moment to focus. Martinez? Come to gloat? No, I came to have lunch. I saw you and wanted to say hello. Sure you did. He took a long drink. You know, I heard what you did with the company, my company, turned it around, made it successful. Good for you. Thank you. I also heard you're a decent boss, that people actually like working for you. Imagine that. I sat down on the stool next to him. Richard, can I ask you something? Why not? Why did you fire me? Really, it wasn't just the presentation. You'd been looking for an excuse for months. He stared into his drink. You want the truth? I do. You scared me. You were better than me, and I knew it. Everyone knew it. Clients asked for you specifically. Employees came to you with problems instead of me. You were making me obsolete in my own company. So you fired me. So I fired you. He laughed bitterly. Worst decision I ever made. I thought getting rid of you would solve the problem. Instead, I got rid of the only thing holding the company together. You could have promoted me, made me a partner. We could have built something great together. My ego wouldn't let me. I needed to be the smartest guy in the room, and you made that impossible. You did amount to something, Martinez. A lot more than I did. I was wrong about you, about everything. Yeah, you were. I paid for his drink, left him at the bar, and walked out. It should have felt better hearing him admit it, but mostly I just felt sad for him. He'd had something good and destroyed it because he couldn't handle someone else being talented. I wasn't going to make that mistake. 5 years after Richard Morrison fired me, Martinez Analytics is valued at $180 million. We have offices in 4 cities and 200 employees. We're consistently ranked as one of the best places to work in our industry. I'm 34 years old and successful beyond anything I imagined when I was crying in my car after getting fired. But success isn't what matters most. What matters is how I got here and who I became along the way. I learned that the people who doubt you, who dismiss you, who tell you you'll never amount to anything, they're usually projecting their own fears. Richard wasn't wrong about me. He was scared of himself. I learned that failure isn't getting fired or failing. Failure is letting someone else's opinion of you become your own opinion. I learned that success isn't about revenge. It's about proving something to yourself, not to the people who doubted you. And I learned that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something so successful, so meaningful, so impactful that your critics become irrelevant. Richard Morrison told me I'd never amount to anything. He was wrong. And buying his company wasn't about proving him wrong. By the time I bought it, I'd already proved that. Buying his company was about saving something that deserved better than him. The employees, the clients, the legacy his father built. I gave it the leadership it deserved. And that, more than any revenge, is what success looks like. If you've ever been told you'd never amount to anything and proved them wrong, share your story below and subscribe for more stories about turning doubt into determination and failure into fuel.